Hi, greetings, fellow Arrow fans. We're looking at Arrow Season 1 now continues on with the episode Vertigo. The episode opens with Hood chasing a drug dealer who sells something called Vertigo. The dealer admits he's supplied by someone named the Count. Oliver tells John of his mission to find the Count. John reminds him that Thea's hearing is coming up in a few hours. Outside the courthouse, Thea is bombarded by a huge media presence. Thea's attorney has worked out a plea arrangement with the prosecutor, but Judge Brackett denies the deal, wanting to make Thea the poster child for Starling City's vertigo problem. Back at the mansion, Thea's attorney gets to work on an appeal, but warns the family she may have to do jail time. Thea walks off, still accusing her mother of cheating on Walter. Maria is upset that Thea isn't taking the situation seriously, and Oliver decides to prevent his sister from being used as an example. Oliver flashes back to being locked up on the island. He pleads Yafei Gulong to free him, reminding him that he returned from the man. Yafei simply says, "I can't," and walks away. Oliver drops by the police station and meets with a vice detective named McKenna Hall, whom he knew from their partying days. McKenna is aware of the count and gives him a file, gently asking him to let the police handle the situation. Quentin notices Oliver snooping around and asks McKenna about it. In order to make an example, the Count injects pure vertigo directly into the bloodstream of the dealer from the beginning. The Count explains how the dose apparently creates agonizing pain for hours or days and eventually causes a person's heart to give out. The Count hands him a gun with one bullet, giving him the option to take revenge on the misery. The man shoots himself. The Count finds it interesting that the vigilante is coming for him. Laurel and Tommy discuss their radically opposite schedules, getting in the way of spending more time together. Oliver shows up and asks Laurel about Judge Brackett. He wants to see if her father can help. That night, Laurel and Quentin talk about Thea. Quentin initially refuses to do anything, but Laurel protests that she sees potential in Thea and the young woman, the young woman needs help, not prison. She points out that the trouble Sarah got into as a teenager, including incident of shoplifting, which made Quentin go away. Quentin eventually agrees to make a few calls. Oliver meets with his Bradford connections to try and get connected with the Count. He says he's interested in the drug business. In exchange for the help, they ask him to kill a man. Oliver obliges. This leads to a flashback to the island. Yao brings Oliver to organized fighting circle Edward is using for unit cohesion. Yao shows them into the circle and it appears they are to fight. Back in present day, Oliver puts a bite of the man he seemingly killed into his trunk. He places his finger on the man's chin and he pops back to life. Oliver tells John that in order not to blow his Bradford connection, his plan is to meet with the Count as himself, then follow him to his hideout. Laurel and Oliver talk to Thea about her legal situation. Laurel explains Judge Brackett has agreed to 2 years of probation and 500 hours of community service for Thea under this former supervision at CNRI. Thea refuses to take the deal and Oliver is furious. After Laurel leaves, Thea says essentially that she wants to go to jail to ruin their mother's life. Angered, Oliver reveals to Thea that their father cheated on their mother, not the other way around, and Robert even admitted before his death that he was the man they thought he was. Thea is in disbelief. Moira overhears this and is upset with Oliver. Oliver and John meet with the Count. Oliver claims he wants to have something to offer his nightclub customers. The Count reveals that 56 people died to perfect his product. Quentin and McKenna then pull up with several vehicles to bust the meeting. The Count gets away, on his way injecting Oliver in the chest with the pure form of vertigo. Oliver and John manage to get away. John mixes up an antidote with Lian Yu herbs and gives it to Oliver. During a flashback, Oliver recalls his fight with Yafei. Yafei beats him severely, then uses pressure point manipulation on Oliver to fake his death. Oliver wakes up from his drug state, with John telling him that the Count only got a half a dose into him. Oliver realizes the Count got away, but they've sampled the drug which he injected into the former. Quentin and McKenna pay Oliver a visit at the mansion. McKenna reveals she saw him fleeing the scene when they tried to apprehend the Count. Oliver realized that he tried to buy off the Count in a failed attempt to see his face. Quentin warns that if they spot Oliver at another deal, he'll be arrested. As they leave, Oliver assures McKenna he He knows she's just doing her job and thanks Quentin for helping Thea. Quentin simply states he did Laurel a favor. Moira confronts Oliver over his recklessness and also scolds him for telling Thea of Robert's infidelity. Thea interrupts and asks why Moira kept this a secret from her, as she's old enough to know. Moira explains she wanted to preserve Thea's positive memory of her father. Thea tearfully apologizes for accusations to make amends with her mother. Oliver watches the reconciliation and heads upstairs, but suddenly collapses, still suffering from side effects of the overdose. During another island flashback, we see Yao dump Oliver into the river in full view of Fires and his men. In present day, John and Oliver arrive at Queen Consolidated. John suggests Oliver go to the hospital, but he declines. Oliver brings the Vertigo sample to Felicity Smoke, claiming it's an energy drink manufactured by his friend Kevin to cure hangovers. Oliver hopes she can analyze it and find out where in the city it was produced. When Felicity wonders why the energy drink is in a syringe, Oliver replies, "I ran in sports bottles," much to her and Diggle's exasperation. Felicity finds that the sample is manufactured in an abandoned juvenile detention center in the Glades. Against John's wishes, Oliver goes after the Count. Unable to use his bow because of the overdose, Hood physically fights his way through the Count's men. As he makes his way to the drug manufacturing lab, the police arrive. The Hood fights with and eventually overpowers the Count by giving an overdose of his own product. Just then Quentin arrives and orders the vigilante to release the Count, citing how the city has started to look up to the Hood as a hero. The Hood then shoves the Count away and flees the scene. Thea accepts a plea deal and begins working with Laurel at CNRI. After Oliver drops her off, he thanks Laurel for her help. McKenna then calls Oliver, informing him that the Count has been arrested and his drug out of business. Quentin and a psychiatrist observe the Count at a mental institution. Due to the triple dosage of Vertigo given to him by the Hood, the dealer's mind has been warped, possibly permanently. In an island flashback, Oliver wakes up when submerged in the water and is able to swim to shore. In his pocket, he finds a map Yaffe slipped aside, detailing the location of a hideout. In present day, Felicity asks Oliver to meet her Big Billy Burger. After asking if she can trust him, Felicity shows him a book identical to his father's. Felicity reveals she received the list from Walter, who told her it belonged to Moira. Felicity thinks the list cost Walter his life. Bum bum bum. So now let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. Oliver and Alexei talk about Anatoly Knyazov. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation of that. Anatoly will later become a major character in the flashback storylines of Season 2 and Season 5, and a recurring character in Season 6. Oliver told Alexei that he saved Anatoly's life. It's not enough he's talking about him freeing Anatoly from the Mazo in Season 2, or about him saving Anatoly from Gregor in Season 5. Now, finally, let's look at a goof. In the last flashback of the episode, Oliver comes out of the river and is looking at the map. When Oliver comes out of the river and is looking at the map, he says to himself, "Survive," but his lips don't match the dialogue. Oh, interesting. So overall, I think this is a pretty good episode of the show, and I like the fact that it picks up where the last episode left off. So, yeah. So overall, I give the episode Vertigo 4 arrowheads out of 5. Anyway, tune in tomorrow as we take a look at the next episode, Betrayal. So, until then, in the words of Oliver Queen, you have failed this city.